Hey everyone, and welcome as we continue our study through the New Testament Gospels, looking at the 250 events in the life of Jesus. And today we are looking at the guards being posted at the tomb of Jesus. So if you were with us yesterday, we looked at um, Jesus being laid in the tomb, and so we're going to follow up a little bit. They decided to post the guards in front of his tomb to prevent them from stealing the body as their main thorn. So Matthew 27 verses 62 through 66 says, the next day on the Sabbath, the leading priests and Pharisees went to see Pilate. They told him, "Sir, we remember when the deceiver once said while he was still alive, 'After 3 days I will rise up from the dead.' So we request that you seal the tomb until the third day. This will prevent his disciples from coming and stealing his body and then telling everyone he was raised from the dead. If that happens, we'll be worse off than we were before, or were at first." Pilate replied, "Take guards and secure it to the best you can." So they sealed the tomb and posted guards to protect it. And so what's interesting here is if you look at this, the religious leaders took Jesus's resurrection claim more seriously than the disciples did. And I know he told the disciples that several times he was going to raise on the third day, but I think at this point they're just they're probably in such despair or discouragement that they're not even taking that seriously. And so they didn't seem to remember Jesus teaching about the resurrection and about his resurrection for sure. But the religious leaders remembered that, and so they're taking the steps they're thinking will prevent it, right? Or the fabrication of it. They thought that, well, his followers are going to come and steal the body and be like, oh, he raised, and make claims that he raised on the third day. And so because of these claims, they were almost as afraid of Jesus just as much after his death as he was when he was alive, because they knew that they could try to turn this into a huge story. And if he, if in their mind, they thought, well, if they do claim that he raised from the dead and stole his body, that would be a big problem. And we see that he did raise from the dead, and we see how big of a movement came out of that because of that. And so we see the impact that had, and they understood that. And so they tried to take every precaution they could to keep that body and make sure he remained in the tomb. And because the tomb was carved out of rock, right, in the side of a hill, there was only one entrance to the tomb. There was only one way to get in and out. And so they would take and seal it with a cord across the stone that they would roll in front of it, that they have in front of the entrance. And so, and the cord would be sealed with clay, and so that would help seal it as well. And so they would be able to tell if anyone had messed with it or tried to prevent with it. So, but the religious leaders here, they took even extra precautions and asked that these guards be put in front of the tomb. And so that way that no one, I mean, you're not going to go up, you're not going to be able to go up, his men were not going to be able to go up and take over these Roman soldiers and steal the body. There's no way of sneaking in there and getting that. And that's what they were trying to accomplish. Here's the thing that they failed to realize. They failed to realize that it doesn't matter. No rock, guard, or army was going to prevent the Son of God from rising again. And we're going to see that. And we're going to look at that tomorrow. We're going to see that he rises from the dead, and there's nothing that the guards or anyone else who wants to try to stop it can do about it. The devil himself. The devil had thought he'd won at this point, and we're going to see that he didn't. And we're going to see that awesome story tomorrow. But again, we see that the Pharisees were still afraid of Jesus even in his death. They were still afraid of him in his death, and they had a right to be, because they didn't quite understand it, and they didn't understand why they needed to be afraid of him and who he was. But we're going to see that story as it progresses on. As always, I really appreciate everyone for watching and taking their time. I know this one was a little bit shorter, but it just kind of covers and prepares the story for what we're going to look at tomorrow, which will be a little bit longer. And we'll look at Jesus rising from his raising from the dead and everything that goes around that. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, please go ahead and do so. We're going to continue to put out different studies. We're going to take a little bit of a break once we reach the end of this one in about 2 weeks, but then we're going to dive into some deeper stuff and look at some other things there. So if you want to keep up with that, go ahead and subscribe. But as always, I appreciate everyone for watching.